bird is down. What happened to the bird?
I know what happened.
I do not bet on baseball.
Semi-automatic assault
Incipare.
132, we're declaring an emergency here.
I'm interested in freedom.
Swirling out here around the high rises at 66.
The world's oldest reigning monarch.
Baker, who has had breakdowns several times.
Cannibalism to an end.
It destroyed 2/3 of the city.
Le Mans.
This is the Koppel Report. Television. Revolution in a box. Here now, Ted Koppel.
The world is in the early stages of a revolution that it has barely begun to understand. We think we know something about the impact of television because it's been with us for 50 years. But recently, television has begun falling into the hands of the people. And what they are doing with it here and around the world is the focus of this program tonight. Produce a videotape camera that is relatively inexpensive and easy to operate, and most of us will do what you would expect us to do. We chronicle and immortalize that which is most important to us, ourselves.
No, we don't want water on the camera.
Come on, you can do it.
Ready for the miracle of Christmas.
I got it.
Hi, everybody. This is Madison, Wisconsin, where we spent a little vacation time. This is the state capital.
Congratulations to you, Stephanie, and your bat mitzvah, and I hope I live to see your graduation.
And it's all because your mom don't dance and your daddy don't rock and roll.
Hi, everybody. This is Madison, Wisconsin, where we spent a little vacation time. Right behind me is the.
Oh, wait, what's this flashing yellow light?
It's a white balance indicator, Jan.
Wait,
wait! Don't touch that!
The people are doing a lot more than just shooting picnics and birthday parties. They're shooting. They're making fictional tapes. They're doing special effects. We got incredible underwater footage, travel footage. Really things that were far more creative and original than we ever expected.
They're gonna make a big start out of
Beautiful, that's a cut, that's a cut.
Where once only the wedding of a prince and his princess was deemed worthy of recording in its entirety.
Well, my sister told me that she would not be in the wedding unless we videoed it because she said that it was really valuable to her.
This year alone, some 7.5 million camcorders will be sold worldwide.
Can I get it real fast? Real fast? Let's try.
The newest model, weighing only 2 pounds, fits into the smallest places.
Houston, we have a TV picture.
When space is scarce, the ultimate high shot.
Okay, we agree.
Camcorders are so inexpensive to operate, and that means that not only are there more camcorders out there, but people shoot with them for longer times. Which makes it easier to capture these kinds of chance events on tape.
Indeed, it does. 26 years ago, when John Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, only one motion picture camera recorded the event. It was an 8mm home movie camera owned by Abraham Zapruder. Think about it for a moment. If something like that were to happen today, 50 home video cameras would capture the event from 20 different angles. With millions of cameras out there today, even though very few are in the hands of journalists, the chances of an important or interesting event being videotaped are much greater than they have ever been before. A commercial fisherman actually found the time to grab his camcorder during this huge storm off the coast of Kodiak, Alaska, to witness another boat going under.
He's on the side.
Okay, start picking people out of the water.
In this case, the police officer put a camcorder on his helmet to document a drug raid.
Move to death. I got time to play.
I got hot spot.
The camcorder in this electronics store was rolling when it was stolen. Here, drug gang members made a home video they'd later regret.
Money, money, money. John will go buy me 3 cars tomorrow. As a matter of fact, we just ride down the street and get them ones away.
In this extraordinary example, a mother left her video camera on during a feeding by a babysitter. The case went to court. The tape was used as evidence. But it was also news. TV news directors around the country know a good source when they see one.
This house caught fire right down the street from my place. I grabbed my video camera and ran down there as fast as I could.
Having people who are not a part of your regular news staff who just supply you with news material, whether they're pictures or words or information. It was simply taking that old idea of the news stringer and marrying it to the realization, the recognition that there is an awful lot of that home video equipment out there.
Inevitably, some of those events, randomly shot, recorded almost by coincidence, are of national, sometimes even international interest. Each of these news events was shot with a home video camera. The explosion of a gun turret aboard the USS Iowa. A West German air show collision, shot by 3 home video cameras. The collapse of a tower built for the visit of Pope John Paul to Texas.
Holy cow, this whole place is falling down.
And the Armenian earthquake. News programs get video they would otherwise have missed. The amateur camera person has a passing brush with the world of video journalism.
Another vent right there, plate falling in.
And the world at large is better informed. So, where's the rub?
We don't always know the motivation of the people who are taking the pictures. If somebody's doing it for a special interest cause, that's very different than a network news person who's trying to be impartial in their treatment of an issue.
Meet Sam Labuddy. Now, he makes no secret of his motivation. He is an environmental activist, extremely successful at using his camcorder as a weapon for his cause.
A cameraman working for the Marine Mammal Fund took the pictures for this report by ABC's Roger Karras.
What you're seeing here has been witnessed by few people who do not work on tuna boats. Just how brutal to dolphins the netting of yellowfin tuna really is.
When people see pictures of, say, hundreds of dolphins drowning in a tuna fishing operation or see headless walruses on the beach, they just can't deny it anymore.
It's a volatile mixture. Television news organizations always hungry for a hot piece of video, and activists committed to a cause armed with a camera and more than ready to give television what it wants. It can be relatively innocuous, as when some British youngsters climbed aboard an unguarded passenger jet at London's Heathrow Airport to prove, they said, just how bad security was.
We're out of the plane, and as you can see, nobody knows of our presence here.
It can be useful and provocative journalism, as when Paul Guerin witnessed New York police officers near his home enforcing a curfew designed to rid Tompkins Square Park of loiterers. Guerin ran home to get his camcorder and became the first camera person in New York to capture, for the news, what became known as the Tompkins Square riot.
I was framing several police officers chasing and hitting one guy with their sticks, and they crossed over in front of me while I was on top of the van. At that point, I guess the police noticed me videotaping, and they came after me and began swinging their nightsticks at my legs.
I'm getting down! I'm getting down! I'm getting down! Give me a chance! Give me a chance! I'm getting down! Give me a chance!
The video medium or television has become now democratic in the way that it has never been in our history. And now anybody on the street can catch something just at a whim or by chance. And I think that that's a great asset to the news networks.
Not always. This footage, described on the air as a fire at the Chernobyl nuclear reactor, was obtained from an amateur cameraman. He was arrested after it was learned that these were actually pictures of an Italian cement factory.
There is a danger that because of the speed and demand and the competitiveness, that some of those things can slip through the cracks. If we rush things on the air without checking them out because of competitive pressures or because we have too much information to deal with, we're going to have credibility problems.
Sometimes the people with the camera go beyond simple deception.
Hi, Connie and Scott. As you can see, I'm healthy and well, so don't
Sometimes
worry about me.
the camera is merely a tool in the stage managing of a political crime. Charles Glass, a journalist held hostage for 2 months, remembers the day his captors videotaped him.
They had a roll-away bed folded up, and on top of it, a small Betacam video camera. And they then they ordered me to read the statement.
Many people know me as a journalist, but few who know the truth. I use the press as cover for my main job at the CIA.
I never liked the idea of showing tapes of hostages made by their captors under circumstances that we couldn't know about. It was only after I'd been through it myself that I was firmly convinced, and that I argued very strongly that this should not happen.
So what do we do about pictures like this? It's a travesty, an outrage, and yet it appears on U.S. television. Why? Because in an open society, no matter how distasteful it may be, you can't keep information out. You can keep people out, but not their ideas, or their message, or their image. Last spring, Daniel Ortega, the president of Nicaragua, was denied a visa to come and speak in the United States. Friends of the Sandinista government in this country took matters into their own hands. At a bar in Boston, at a union hall in San Francisco, at a church in Concord, New Hampshire, and at 32 other sites around the country, they prepared for a broadcast from Managua. For $3,500, they rented a studio, a crew, and a ground station in Managua. For $3,700, they rented a satellite for 45 minutes.
I want to congratulate the people of Nicaragua for the 10th anniversary of the revolution.
On a conference call hookup, members of the audience could talk to Ortega.
Que viva Nicaragua libre!
Que viva!
A lo largo de estos 10 años ha corrido mucha sangre en Nicaragua.
A lot of blood has been shed over the last 10 years here in Nicaragua.
The audiences were not huge, but Ortega got to speak in the United States.
Killing people is hardly the way to achieve democracy.
Without a visa. Indeed, the entire world has been infected by the virus of television. It trickles across national boundaries. It leaps from one continent to another. There is no longer any country so remote or isolated that its people, at one time or another, are not touched by a television image from the other side of the world. Where once political documents were smuggled across borders and passed secretly from hand to hand, now underground production teams from Africa to Eastern Europe are unleashing revolution in a box. In communist Hungary, they call it Black Box, a homemade video showing, among other things, scenes of banned demonstrations. In neighboring Czechoslovakia, the government rules with an even heavier hand than in Budapest. Activist producers mix flashy graphics with MTV-style production to draw attention to their video journal. And with at least 250,000 videotape recorders in Czechoslovakia, that's where Video Journal finds its audience. One recent edition satirized the low quality of Czech products by singing the praises of the Czech State Airlines air sickness bags. Another edition of Video Journal captured on a home camcorder this clandestine meeting between Czech and Polish dissident leaders at a secret location in the woods along their common border. George Orwell was wrong. The media, which he predicted would become the instrument of totalitarian control, has become, instead, its nemesis. This footage was made with a camcorder at the National University of Chile. A woman student, allegedly shot by Chilean police. This becomes part of a monthly magazine called Teleanalysis, opposing the rule of Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet. The program is distributed to 300 subscribers, churches, human rights organizations. Each cassette is copied, then copied again, until eventually, its producers claim, it reaches an audience of 40 to 50,000 a month. It undermines what every dictatorship requires: silence.
Paz se logra en democracia.
What has evolved over the past 20 years is the capacity of small, relatively powerless groups to wage propaganda warfare at a level once available only to governments. Seizing world attention, they discovered early on, was easy enough. Gaining sympathy was not. Then, in late 1987, whether by accident or design is still not entirely clear, young Palestinians, many of them only children, began engaging Israeli troops in a lopsided battle that they couldn't hope to win. The early stages of the Intifada, the Palestinian uprising, conveyed an image of hopelessness. And that gained for the Palestinians what had always eluded them: international sympathy. The Israelis, recognizing the damage that these images are causing them, have tried to block television coverage.
No pictures now.
International news agencies, inhibited in their coverage, have begun handing out small, easily concealable home video cameras to Palestinian amateurs. Qasem Ali received less than an hour's training before his first shoot.
The next day was confrontation in all of Gaza Strip, and the authority closed the area for all the TV crews.
The Israelis put much of the occupied territories off limits to the media, but it was not a total blackout. This morning in the Gaza Strip,
Ali's footage, distributed by WTN, Worldwide Television News, was used on ABC, CBS, and CNN. Issa Frage works for a local Palestinian news agency. He knows what the Western media wants. They want video of violence. But Issa is also shooting for Palestinian pride and history. At the Jalazun refugee camp one recent afternoon, Issa was showing a video he has produced, highlights of the Intifada. As the audience watched the images of Israeli-Palestinian tension, word seeped in of Israeli soldiers entering the camp. Young Palestinians slipped out to pelt the soldiers with stones. The video on the screen was momentarily forgotten, displaced by reality. But in Israel, as in so many other parts of the world now, the television camera does more than simply record events. It is a weapon. Nowhere has television won a more significant victory against greater odds than in Poland.
We have television, satellites, and other media, and we have to learn how to use these tools properly. We'd be lost without them. We couldn't live without them. When today we're talking about victories, that's due at least 50% to the media.
Only 8 years ago, Solidarity, which now controls the government, appeared to be dead, crushed. The union was outlawed, any mention of it banned from Polish state TV. The leadership had been arrested or driven underground. and it was underground that they prepared alternative sources of information.
In those times, you would go to a church and watch some tapes from the underground. Up to 1,000 people would surface and you know, watch it.
Sometimes people don't have a car. They want to have a VCR first, because it is their eye to the world.
Although one VCR could cost the equivalent of the average Pole's annual salary, 5 or 10 people would split the cost.
The VCR, almost by definition, undercuts state control of the media, because cassettes are handled privately, distributed privately, and viewed privately. They are uncensorable.
There is no Berlin Wall for audio and video doesn't lie. The government denies things. This is not true. Solidarity is lying. But the picture really means something, like police rolling over a boy with a truck, and that you cannot falsify.
38 million Poles, 3 million video cassette recorders. Truly, revolution in a box.
A $5 worth cassette have done more than the whole army did. It was stronger than them.
Exiled Poles had begun a production house in Paris. They smuggled tapes of martial law repression out of Poland to Western news agencies and tapes about what was happening in the West back in again.
We did a great program about Wałęsa's first trip abroad to Paris. Polish TV was showing the visit didn't amount to anything. Our program showed that Wałęsa was received as a great statesman.
The tapes were copied again and again at underground production facilities like this one, in an annex to a church in Gdansk. By last September, the Paris group was ready to leap a new technological hurdle. Poles have now bought at least 10,000 private satellite dishes, bringing Western news and entertainment directly into their homes.
We thought that censorship in Poland would last. And we're thinking of forming a rival television that we're going to send from Paris via satellite to Poland. And we did 3 of those programs. But things have changed in Poland.
Now, Solidarity controls Poland's new government. It has compromised with the communists by letting them retain control of important posts like defense and interior, but state radio and television is about to pass into Solidarity's hands. That, their spokesman told us, is 100% certain. When we come back, a television revolution of another kind, Soviet style. Some of it is as plain, well, as plain as the nose on your face.
If you did not know they were Russians and they suddenly dropped down in your midst, you could see them in an American sitcom doing fine.
Roger Ailes, campaign media advisor to George Bush.
We somehow think he's this nice, friendly uncle who wants to make friends with us, and by the time you get done watching the newscast, you can't understand why America is being so standoffish.
This is Washington. This was a very dangerous moment when Gorbachev jumped out of the car he was not supposed to jump out of, but insofar as building Gorbachev's image in the United States, this did more than any speech.
The Soviets have learned about television and image building, much of it from us.
When we used to have President Reagan addressing Soviets on whatever occasions, we would see this grandfatherly gentleman sitting at a table that was very simple, with a picture of his family somewhere in the background, all very soft, unofficial, almost homey. On the other hand, Gorbachev initially would be sitting very officially at an ornate imperial-style table in the Kremlin and looking so official that no matter what he said, it didn't come through as, you know, here I am talking to you folks. And I've seen that change.
That and a lot of other things.
There are such improprieties in nominating candidates that they are closing the doors for the working class. And they claim they are the working people, that the Soviet people are the bosses. But whatever they do, they don't ask the Soviet people.
Television is being used in and by the Soviet Union as never before. It began to change significantly after the accident at the Chernobyl nuclear plant in 1986.
It is not glasnost. It is forced glasnost. You know and we know that it took the Soviet Union several days to acknowledge the fact that there had been this terrible disaster.
Indisputably, what gets on Soviet TV now is breathtakingly different.
These scenes have been shot in the city of Spitak, Armenia, literally only a few moments after the onslaught of the earthquake.
Here's the new boss of Soviet state radio and TV in his first interview.
You may not believe me, but I'm seriously considering getting a preacher on the television on Saturdays or Sundays to preach about goodness, about happiness, about honesty, about having a conscience, about love. People need that kind of preaching.
They're getting a variation already. Every morning at 7:15, Alan Chumak radiates his healing energy to hundreds of thousands of believers who watch him on the Soviet equivalent of Good Morning America.
Don't rush into the hustle and bustle of the day. Don't be in a hurry to spoil your mood. Smile more, smile to each other.
This is an extremely popular late-night program called Vzglad, or Viewpoint. In this segment, the ethnic unrest in Soviet Georgia.
We'd like to show you a clip from an amateur video. There are about 8,000 demonstrators in front of the central government building. There was a clash between demonstrators and troops. The militia units used billy clubs, military shovels, and tear gas. As a result of the clash, 16 people died. Among them, 14 were women, one of whom was pregnant.
Part of the strategy has clearly been to activate people, get them to speak more, get them more creative, get them playing a political role and more active rather than passive.
Among the most electric programs is something called 600 Seconds, which appears on Leningrad television. Its host is Alexander Nevzarov.
It is very seldom that we have a program without sensationalism and scandal, since our life is full of scandals because of the complete collapse and degradation of the social system.
We followed Nevzarov and his 600 Seconds crew as they paid a surprise visit to a chicken processing plant in Leningrad. What they found were chickens dying of malnutrition and disease, while others fed on the remains of the dead chickens.
What you see here in a country where there are chronic shortages of food, where every piece of meat, be it poultry or any other kind of meat, has to be counted literally, this is hard even to conceive.
In a nation where consumer protection is low and frustration is high, the opportunity to let off steam on television serves as a safety valve for public frustration.
I don't want our television to play the role of a peacemaker, a do-gooder, because I see that there's still a lot that needs to be destroyed, criticized. Bureaucracy, conservatism, embezzlement, crime, and there is still a lot to clean up, and TV must do the cleaning up.
Progress in some places is a little slower than in others. Vremya, the only national evening news program, has a massive audience, perhaps 150 million viewers every night. And it does now cover delicate issues like ethnic unrest and the recent coal miners' strike.
The number of striking workers in the Donetsk region has sharply increased during the last 24 hours. By the end of the day, almost 30 mines have joined the strike.
Television coverage was very slow because, again, the instinct of the television management, this is new, what do we do with it? How is the boss going to react?
The boss, Mikhail Gorbachev, is the architect of all this change, and anyone who thinks it is a simple public relations device wasn't watching Soviet television when Gorbachev ordered something unprecedented to happen. Live television coverage of the Congress of People's Deputies. It was the biggest television event in Soviet history.
We are obliged to honor the memory of tortured and executed fellow citizens. There are tens of thousands of our innocent people who have been murdered. Mankind has never known such crimes. There is no question that we need access to KGB archives, but even today they are totally sealed.
It was like the 7th day of the World Series. People were glued to their television sets. You would go to a restaurant and a television would be set up in the restaurant. People would be eating without speaking to their table partners.
What Gorbachev has set in motion at home and abroad is quite extraordinary.
Gorbachev hasn't had any special schooling, special training, special rehearsals. His big advantage is that he does this naturally. He doesn't play as a politician, he is one. He doesn't show sincerity, he simply is a sincere person. His charm, his openness, his ability to speak frankly and directly to people is something that comes naturally to him. And that's his chief advantage.
I think he's made a difference. I think it is less clear that that is a difference that continues to last. I think partly we in the West, not just Americans, are beginning to see he's got terrible problems at home, that he can perform well on television, but he hasn't necessarily performed terribly well in changing the Soviet economy.
Setting up an advertising agency in Moscow, for example, is a genuine triumph of hope over expectation. Gary Barant is CEO of the first U.S.-Soviet advertising agency, Young and Rubicam Severo.
Certainly the television network is anxious to have commercials on the air. Unfortunately, it's going to be a while before that happens, because what the Soviets need to understand better is that advertising is about selling. And without products on the shelves, there's no reason to invest in advertising or television time.
Soviet television did run an ad for DuPont Teflon pans last winter, and the response was encouraging. Lots of buyers, but unfortunately, not enough pans on the shelves. So why is Young and Rubicam setting up shop in the Soviet Union?
We are helping bring Western companies and Western products into the Soviet Union.
That, in a nutshell, is Gorbachev's gamble, and television is his weapon of choice. The West needs to be convinced that there is a new, non-threatening Soviet Union. Watch them withdraw from Afghanistan. See them tolerate a non-communist government in Poland. Listen to them reject their totalitarian past and adopt a more open attitude toward labor strikes and ethnic unrest. The Soviet Union needs Western technology and investment. It needs to cut its own defense spending. It needs to unravel and restructure its own stifling bureaucracy. And those are the messages that Soviet television is reflecting.
Unquestionably, television is a part of the mechanism of perestroika and a direct part of glasnost. Take away from our social life newspapers, magazines, and television, and no glasnost will remain.
This second Russian Revolution has been inspired and encouraged from the top. But as Vladimir Posner cautions, that doesn't make it irreversible.
The genie's out of the bottle, but I think the curtain can always come down. I don't believe in any situation anywhere in the world where a curtain will not or cannot even theoretically come down.
Already, in fact, the Soviet public is becoming increasingly impatient with bountiful images and empty shelves. When we come back, we'll look at how the U.S. government uses television. The best, right? Wrong. It has happened, as the late Marshall McLuhan, the Canadian expert on communications theory, predicted. The next war, he said, will be fought with images.
The cannons in the war for democracy are television cameras.
But whose television cameras?
We are today what radio once was in the form of the BBC World Service and VOA and its counterparts. We have moved, and I think are supplanting that radio service now with television news.
This year, CNN's so-called satellite footprint became literally worldwide when the network signed an agreement giving them access to a Soviet satellite, which now beams CNN into the Soviet Union.
You have CNN in Gazteleradio. You have CNN in TASS, which is the official wire agency of the Soviet Union, if you wish. You have CNN in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Information. That's all it was. You probably have it in the KGB.
The whole American television medium so overwhelms the rest of the world that in many respects, you're doing it for us, if I can make the point. It is American television that is telling a lot of the rest of the world what we're like.
This living room, indeed this entire home, is an illusion, occupied for only a few hours a year by a fictional family. And yet, that family, the Huxtables, and their home, this set for a television program, are known and beloved around the world.
Bill Cosby, el espectáculo de Bill Cosby.
If the U.S. government had tried to create a program for foreign consumption designed to prove how completely blacks have been assimilated into the American dream, it could hardly have outdone The Cosby Show.
I know.
What?
I could wear my dress to the party.
No, ma'am, you're not pulling that one on me again.
Je sais.
Quoi?
Je pourrais mettre ma robe pour la fête.
Ah non, tu ne me la feras pas une deuxième fois, celle-là.
Ya sé.
¿Qué?
Podré usar mi vestido en la fiesta.
No, mi amor, no volverás a meterme en ese embrollo.
Una producción Lorimer.
The most popular program in the world, though, is the one suggesting that nothing succeeds like excess.
ねえ JR、今夜はどこのバイタと一緒に寝るの？
それがどうした？どこの誰だろうと、今俺の目の前にいるバイトよりはマシだ。
If you ever wondered where foreigners accumulate some of the strange ideas that they have about America, wonder no more.
We would like to begin talking to you now about the third season of Little House on the Prairie.
Right. It is here at the MIP convention in Cannes, France, that the world comes to buy and sell television programs. And for good or ill, the most popular, the most successful programs in the world are ours.
Barbara DeLisa, come on down!
Or based on ours.
Julia Jauregui Gutierrez, a jugar!
Perhaps some of the reason why democracy is on the rise throughout the world is that democratic nations have been the most successful in dominating the entertainment airwaves of various countries. Capitalist and democratic values are encoded in the television programs.
The passion for American programs is so great that when the cast of The Bold and the Beautiful arrived in the Greek capital of Athens for an autograph signing session, an estimated 50,000 people showed up. Indeed, some European countries are trying to impose a quota on the number of American shows, programs, they claim, which are polluting the cultural atmosphere of their countries. The product may not always be regarded with admiration, but American skill at marketing is.
I appeal to the citizenry of the Republic of the Philippines to side by your government.
The man who wanted to stay in office, the woman who wanted to win that office, and the man who wants to replace the woman who won that office, all hired American PR firms to help them do the job. U.S. expertise from political campaigns to image repair is sought around the world. Still, the U.S. government has its own agenda around the world, one that is not met by the private sector in advertising, PR, or the television networks.
They have a slightly different objective. They're talking about ratings competitively, and it's a rating war that will lead you to putting on, if you have to, murder by lamplight or sex and violence in the twilight kinds of programs if it builds a rating. The issue for them is money and profit. Our issue is America.
And the government sells America through WorldNet, the television arm of the USIA. And what do they beam out on its state-of-the-art, 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week facility?
There are two classes of planets in the solar system. The inner...
A little bit from NASA.
Good morning from Washington. Wholesale price...
A little from the Chamber of Commerce.
I yield myself 30 seconds.
A little bit of Congress.
Good evening, everybody. I'm George Michael, and welcome to the Sports Machine.
And the George Michael Sports Machine. The George Michael Sports Machine Well, USIA gets this material for free. In point of fact, the only original programming done by WorldNet, the only programming, in fact, that they are allowed to do, are these satellite press conferences, where foreign reporters are brought into a U.S. embassy and given the chance to interview guests, usually U.S. officials, in Washington. If the reporters use the material, the broadcasts can have a wide impact. But as mass media programming, they're sort of limited.
That means that as many people as you might be able to crowd into an embassy to see a particular program are going to be the viewing audience in any one place.
USIA's previous director, Charles Wick, a Reagan family friend with a Hollywood background, did experiment with television.
Let Poland be Poland. A program transmitted this evening all across the world.
But Congress felt squeamish about this star-studded 1982 production. It confirmed their suspicion that Charlie Wick was too showbiz. And it did not help when, in subsequent years, Wick made extravagant audience claims for WorldNet.
The problem we had was they lied to us. We told them to bring us a believable, if you want to use the term, statistical survey showing that they had 20 million audience. Well, all they could come up with is 200,000. So last year we cut the funding for what we called passive programming.
Simply put, a lot of people, like Bernard Kalb, former network correspondent, former spokesman for the State Department, a lot of people feel the United States shouldn't be in the propaganda business at all.
The world is not getting online in search of visas to the great masters of propaganda, the Soviet Union. If the United States is indeed inept, and incompetent in the field of propaganda, so be it.
Actually, the USIA runs an extremely successful propaganda operation. 180 hours of programming in 43 languages aimed at 162 countries, every day, on radio, Voice of America. Less than 5% of USIA's budget goes into what America does so well, marketing on television.
It is not something we are experienced at, and it is going to take some time to develop it. And that's not an excuse, it's a statement.
Isn't there something bizarre about this conversation?
I mean, the nation that is best at PR has not yet found the ways, I shouldn't say the nation, it has not yet become an integral part of the foreign policy establishment, if I can put it that way. I'm not denying the fact. I wish I could.
Give us the tools, Congress. Stop jamming our signal, and we'll show you what dedicated people will do. I don't have the formula, and I take the oath, and I will stand ready to be pilloried if that's what it takes. But we will find ways of making U.S. television more effective, or my name is not Bruce Gelb.
But Mr. Gelb also believes something that others have long ago disproved. He believes that in most countries, television has to be cleared by a gatekeeper.
The gatekeeper is somebody usually connected with the government who will make a decision as to whether or not the product that you provide him with through your satellite is going to go in part or in total on his network. If he wants it on, it will be on. If he doesn't, it's not.
What the director of the U.S. Information Agency should know is what underground activists in Chile and Hungary prove every day. What television producers from Solidarity to the African National Congress have known for years. And what Daniel Ortega proved here only a few months ago. Television requires neither a visa nor an invitation. As events here in Gdansk, Poland have demonstrated over the last few years, television is an incredibly powerful instrument for change. But beware, because the same technology that is used to reveal truth can also be used to conceal it, to confuse reality. I have never been to Gdansk. What you're watching is the product of something called the Ultimat, which creates a composite of two separate video elements. I'm actually standing in a television studio, thank you, where this electronic image has been created. The Ultimat is still quite expensive, time-consuming, and complex, but Now, take a look at this. This illusion of a person in a location they've never visited was created by a home video camera that will be available this month for less than $2,000. One camera, two lenses. Manipulation or altering reality is now within the budget of almost any political group in the world. And this is something we used in Beijing, the pixelator, which allowed us to transmit still frames from a videotape over a telephone line after the Chinese denied us access to a satellite. In a few years, we'll be able to feed moving videotape pictures over a phone. Think about that. To prevent videotape from getting out, a country would have to close down its entire international phone system. And in places where phones are unavailable, all you need is this suitcase-sized satellite dish. With this, one person can uplink still video images to a satellite from anywhere in the world. And moving pictures, just a matter of time. Television used to be the exclusive province of government and enormously wealthy corporations. They decided what you saw and when. Not anymore. Television has fallen into the hands of the people. They haven't quite mastered it, but they will. The technology is becoming more affordable and accessible. A form of television democracy is sweeping the world, and like other forms of democracy that have preceded it, its consequences are likely to be beyond our imagination. I'm Ted Koppel. Good night.
The Koppel Report, Television, Revolution in a Box, is a presentation of Koppel Communications Incorporated in cooperation with ABC News.